Welcome everyone to Downtown City Housing. Since the early 1980s, here at Downtown City Housing, we've provided affordable housing for our 55-plus community, many of which are on fixed incomes. As you're well aware, our community here in Greater Moncton has experienced an unprecedented growth, as well as a vacancy rate of lower than 2% in the last few years. With that, it is vital that we do maintain our affordable housing. Here at Downtown City Housing, we are proud to have the ability to provide safe and affordable housing for members of our community. With that, I'd like to take this time to invite the Honourable Ginette Petitpas Taylor, Minister of Veterans Affairs and Associate Minister of National Defence, to speak. Minister.
Thank you so much. Bonjour tout le monde. Good afternoon. Bonjour tout le monde. Good afternoon, everyone. À titre de député pour la circonscription de Moncton, Riverview et Dieppe, c'est un énorme plaisir pour moi d'être ici avec vous cet après-midi, avec mon ami, mon collègue, Dominic LeBlanc. So good afternoon, everyone. It's a real honor and privilege to be here with all of you today. I have to say, I just got off the plane this morning from Ottawa, so it's always great to be home, surrounded by folks from the Greater Moncton area, and really happy to be here today. And also wanted to thank our MC for the kind introduction. And also wanted to take a moment just to thank the board of directors here in this facility. They've done tremendous work over the years, and that is why we were so happy to be here and able to do this announcement. I also want to take a moment to commend the staff and the volunteers for their tireless efforts and their commitment. Their work strengthens the individuals and families who rely on affordable housing, and it strengthens the communities as a whole. Il est clair que les communautés partout au Canada ont besoin plus de logements abordables, et nous sommes ici pour les aider. Aujourd'hui, notre gouvernement prend une autre mesure importante pour faire en sorte que les Canadiens et Canadiennes, spécialement du Canada atlantique, aient un endroit sécuritaire et un endroit abordable où ils peuvent se sentir chez eux. And today, we're again showing what's possible when many partners work together, when we take a Team Canada approach when it comes to housing. Like many areas across the country, Moncton is certainly thriving, and we also recognize that there's a great need for housing within our community. It's a place where more and more people are choosing to work, to live, and to raise a family. And as such, we have to make sure that we continue to secure more housing units. Par contre, la crise du logement aussi rend la vie plus difficile pour plusieurs Canadiens. Et nous savons que ce n'est pas un problème facile à résoudre, mais nous savons aussi que c'est possible de le résoudre. L'annonce aujourd'hui va nous rapprocher à cette solution. Last year, I was happy to announce that our government was investing even more to support housing projects in the Greater Moncton area, including the one that we're visiting here today, to support renovations of affordable housing units for seniors. And last year, Sandra actually brought me on a tour in the building, and I was able to visit some of the units that have received some pretty nice upgrades. So it's great to see that those investments are being made, and our government is happy to be able to support those upgrades. And today, on behalf of my friend and colleague, the Minister of Housing, Sean Fraser, I'm pleased to announce that our government is investing over $98.6 million for 69 housing projects in Atlantic Canada. Together, these projects delivered through the Affordable Housing Fund will create over 4,100 homes throughout Atlantic Canada. Avec ce financement, nous soutiendrons encore plus de projets comme celui-ci. Le nouveau fonds annoncé aujourd'hui permettront de réparer 137 maisons ici même à Moncton et d'autres partout dans le Canada atlantique. J'ai hâte de vous donner plus de détails à ce sujet très bientôt. Grâce au Fonds pour le logement abordable, notre gouvernement crée plus de 4 100 logements dans l'ensemble du Canada atlantique. Ce financement fait une grande différence et soutenant directement 69 projets qui appuieront directement la création et la réparation de logements abordables de notre région. Again, it is truly important for the federal government to take a leadership role when it comes to housing. We want to continue to be working with our provinces and also with municipalities, let it be Moncton, Riverview, or Dieppe, or many other municipalities across the country. So again, we're happy to be a partner at the table and certainly want to make sure that we can expand on the growth that is needed here within our community. And again, thank you to each and every one of you for being here today. We appreciate you being here. Sans plus tarder maintenant, j'aimerais aussi prendre un moment pour vous présenter mon ami et mon collègue qui n'a pas besoin d'introduction de la région de Moncton, Dominic LeBlanc, à prendre la parole. Merci, Dominic.
Merci beaucoup, Ginette. Je suis très heureux d'être de retour aussi chez moi. Moi, je suis arrivé hier en soirée. Ginette, en avant-midi aujourd'hui, ont voté hier soir. So we had these votes that went until about 1 a.m. in Moncton, midnight in Ottawa. So I could see Ginette was voting. I was voting on an electronic voting app from my house here. Ginette was at her apartment in Ottawa. So I figured, okay, she's awake too. So I called Ginette at about 11:30 or midnight last night. And then we realized that Ginette was getting up for a 5:30 flight this morning. And I went for a checkup at the Dumont Hospital this morning early. So if it doesn't make any sense what we're saying here, it's because neither of us have slept very much in the last 24 hours. Moi, je suis très content d'être ici avec Ginette, c'est sûr, juste pour participer aux bonnes nouvelles que Ginette vient d'annoncer. Je suis très heureux d'être ici at Downtown Housing as well. I said to Ginette, I remember how proud my father was almost 45 years ago in the early 1980s when the Heritage Court project, including this affordable housing, was taking shape. And I was very proud when Ginette announced a little over a year and a half ago, an investment again here, because after that many years, it behooved everybody to find a way to upgrade and modernize this affordable housing. So it's a perfect example of, I think, the kind of good things that the government can do with community groups when we get together. And I also want to, like Ginette, thank the board of directors and the many people who make this project possible, but who do the same work around southeastern New Brunswick et partout au Canada Atlantique. We need organizations like Downtown City Housing, organizations that offer high quality, affordable, and welcoming living spaces across Atlantic Canada. Nos aînés ont travaillé dur toute leur vie et ils méritent de vieillir et d'être logés dans la dignité, et c'est exactement qu'est-ce que votre travail ici et le travail de d'autres à travers le Canada Atlantique leur permet de faire. C'est un travail extrêmement noble que vous faites et notre gouvernement est très fier de le soutenir aussi. Grâce au financement que Ginette vient d'annoncer aujourd'hui, des milliers de gens en Atlantique, des personnes âgées, des familles, des jeunes, auront plus de facilité à trouver un logement qui correspond à leur budget. Tout ça s'inscrit dans un contexte particulier. On fait à la fois face à une pénurie de main-d'œuvre, une population vieillissante, une augmentation de population record et une pénurie de logements. A few weeks ago, and Ginette referred to this a minute ago, a few weeks ago, Statistics Canada reported that the Greater Moncton area has the second fastest growing metro population in the country. So not long ago, we could have never imagined that to be the case. But having so many people choose to settle in our terrific region comes with incredible opportunities for sure. But it also means we'll need to build lots of housing and lots of different kinds of housing. Atlantic Canada is not necessarily used to the kinds of housing pressures that big cities like Toronto and Vancouver have experienced in the last couple of decades. We want our region to remain not only an incredible place to live, and if you've had a chance to go outside on a day like today or go to Shediac for dinner as I did last night, you know exactly what I mean. But we also need this to be an affordable place to live as well. Housing is a major part of that equation, and it's exactly why we're working on all fronts, as Ginette noted, to build housing that corresponds to people's needs. Nous savons qu'on a encore beaucoup de travail à faire pour rétablir l'équilibre de notre marché du logement. Mais nous continuerons à y travailler en partenariat avec les provinces, les municipalités et les organisations à but non lucratif comme celle qui est derrière ce projet, afin que tous les Canadiens et les Canadiennes puissent accéder à un logement de qualité qui correspond non seulement à leurs besoins, mais à leur budget aussi. Alors, merci beaucoup, merci d'être ici. J'espère que c'est un petit divertissement pour vous autres, un vendredi après-midi quand il fait chaud. Mais moi, je suis très touché que vous êtes venus participer avec nous cet après-midi à cette annonce. Je vous remercie beaucoup. Je vous souhaite une bonne fin de semaine, puis un été rempli de belles températures, de bonne santé et beaucoup d'amitié. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
Ministers, thank you. And thank you to everyone that has come out today for this announcement. To the media, after a short pause, the ministers will be available for some questions.
Ginette and I aren't going to yell at each other, so it'll be fine.
En français, peut-être, pour commencer,
Allez.
c'est pas la première fois qu'on fait ce genre d'annonce à Moncton pour le logement abordable. On peut penser plusieurs millions en janvier, 3,9 millions, en novembre, c'était 15 millions, on peut monter en 2021, il y avait 16 millions. Concrètement, là, ces logements-là, où en sont-ils, c'est mis en chantier, et est-ce que ça fait un impact, ce financement-là du fédéral?
Mais absolument. Mais premièrement, aujourd'hui, c'est un nouveau investissement qu'on fait. Ce qu'on veut un top-up de 98 millions de dollars, oui, pour les 4 provinces de l'Atlantique. Une somme précise pour le Nouveau-Brunswick, plus de 35 millions de dollars. On reconnaît que la population est très grandissante ici dans la région du Grand Moncton. Et puis, ces investissements, absolument, vont faire des grandes améliorations dans le domaine. Nous reconnaissons aussi que nous avons plusieurs édifices qui sont un peu âgés, puis parfois, on a besoin de faire des mises à jour, puis ces investissements vont beaucoup aider avec ça. En plus de ça, c'est un programme que nous annonçons aujourd'hui, mais je pense qu'on regarde à tous les investissements, comme vous avez bien mentionné, la création de nouveaux appartements avec l'organisation de la marée montante, on peut voir beaucoup de progrès qui se passent dans la région, peuvent continuer à être un partenaire avec les provinces et les municipalités.
Un loyer abordable, c'est quoi? C'est comment? Quel prix? Est-ce qu'on peut le chiffrer?
Mais souvent, c'est quand on parle du pourcentage pour la province du Nouveau-Brunswick comme tel, c'est à peu près 30% du revenu comme tel des gens. Ici encore, je pense qu'on peut voir c'est des logements qui sont très abordables aussi. Puis on veut s'assurer qu'encore une fois, qu'il va y avoir différents logements pour différents types de personnes et différents types de familles. Parfois, tu peux avoir une famille qui travaille, mais ils ont la misère à joindre les deux bouts comme tel. Ça fait qu'on veut s'assurer qu'il va y avoir plus de logements sur le marché pour s'assurer qu'eux aussi pourront rentrer le marché.
Quand on dit 30%, on dit souvent que c'est dans le seuil de pas très abordable pour les gens aussi. Donc 30% du revenu, si c'est ça qui est abordable, c'est pas très abordable pour certaines personnes aussi, selon la SCHS. Donc, est-ce que c'est un but qui est bien pour évidemment de 30%?
Oui, mais je pense que finalement, comme que je l'ai bien dit, nous cherchons à construire différents types de logements pour la population en question. On regarde la question des sans-abri à Moncton, juste un exemple. Nous reconnaissons qu'on doit se trouver des endroits où on peut les loger, mais aussi s'assurer qu'ils vont avoir accès au traitement dont ils ont besoin. Aussi, nous reconnaissons qu'il y a des mamans célibataires qui cherchent des logements, des personnes qui sont célibataires, des personnes qui travaillent, des familles. Puis le gouvernement comme tel veut s'assurer qu'on va faire des investissements pour toutes sortes de logements, pour s'assurer que tous les gens vont avoir un toit.
Puis pour s'assurer juste combien de temps pour tout le monde, une question est suivie, s'il vous plaît. So just one question, one follow-up, please, to make sure we have time for everyone. Okay.
Go ahead. Somebody
wants to go next? We can go in English, please?
Yeah.
Okay,
of
so
course.
again, kind of a repeat. How does this money kind of get distributed? If we could drill down a little bit, where are these projects, and how will this roll out into new projects?
Sure. So the announcement that we're making today is over $98 million for the 4 Atlantic provinces. For New Brunswick specifically, we'll be receiving just a bit over $35 million. Through the announcements we'll be making over the next coming weeks and months, we'll be seeing exactly where those monies are going with respect to specific targets. But again, this is a top-up of different funding that's already been provided to the provinces and territories. Today we're making the Atlantic announcement because, again, we certainly want to ensure that the organizations that need more assistance will be having it. And the federal government certainly wants to be there at the table.
And Alan, just to add to what Ginette said, this is an announcement that covers the 4 Atlantic provinces. I think New Brunswick is over 4,000 units.
Correct.
But I saw, for example, I was obviously interested in the allocations in my constituency. So in southeastern New Brunswick over the coming week, Ginette and I, there's an interesting project in Dieppe. There's some in Bucktouche. And other parts around the southeast. So this is the umbrella amount and allocations. There's an interesting project in St. John. So all around New Brunswick, I saw stuff in Woodstock. So the idea today is to talk about additional funding, but I'm looking forward to being in Bactouche. I'm looking forward to being in Dieppe with Ginette, where we can talk about specific locations and specific projects.
And if I just can add as well, this is separate and apart from the Accelerator Fund as well. Last year and this year, we've been around, making significant funding announcements. This is separate and apart from that
but
fund.
it's part of, anyway, the name is.
The Affordable Housing Fund,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, just one quick follow-up. You mentioned that it's good to work with the nonprofit organizations on this. Can you just explain why that?
So, again,
They're the
Ginette-
ones who make the applications.
Of course, and Ginette will have examples in Moncton, Riverview, and Dieppe, but I'm thinking of some co-op housing in Sackville, New Brunswick, which has done terrific things. I'm thinking of some housing that has been sponsored by different church groups in Shediac or in Kent County. You have not-for-profit groups that step up and want to build and then administer or operate affordable housing. It's a terrific way for the Government of Canada to have a partner. There's tax advantages in many cases for these not-for-profits, so it can be even more affordable because their tax structure is different. And they're some of the best partners for the government. Since the first time I was an MP, there was something called the Open Sky Co-op in Sackville, which has continued to do some extraordinary things. So that's just one example, but Ginette would have some in Moncton and Riverview and Dieppe as well.
Sure.
We'll continue in English, but I'd like an answer in French too. So I'm with CBC, but asking for my.
Okay. C'est jamais, not a question from Ottawa, of course. Oh, no. They texted you a question. Okay, so this is what happens. It's the Ottawa newsroom that sees Ginette and Dominic are in Moncton, so they text a question. Let me guess, it's going to be about foreign interference. It's going to be about Jagmeet Singh's comments. Okay.
Great question.
Okay.
So there's some confusion now as to who the National Security and Intelligence Committee actually refers to when it says that parliamentarians cooperated with foreign states. Does the report refer to current parliamentarians?
So, again, I've said all this week and sometimes last week as well, I'm not going to get into commenting on the details of specific intelligence elements in this report. Other parliamentarians have chosen to go into some details, some more than others. The advice I got from the RCMP and from the Department of Justice is to not comment on specific intelligence elements. I also said I think it's important to put a context in some of this, and in that sense I think that the discussion in the last few days has been lost. Some of the intelligence information that I see, and I was with the director of CSIS for 3 hours yesterday morning in Ottawa, and we went over some of these kind of reports. Often the intelligence information that's in the report is one sentence. It'll say that person X was seen leaving a restaurant with person Y, and sources indicated they talked about this. But then there are 4 or 5 sentences as a cover page saying, it's one source, no corroboration, this source in the past got it wrong. We're trying to get allies to corroborate some of this information. So it's a long way away from a proof, and that's why I think the idea that we can talk about individuals or names without having a higher degree of reliability is very dangerous.
Okay. In that vein, we've seen different reactions from Singh and May, as you've mentioned. So if who should we look to then if we can't get some clarity from the government?
I think we should let Justice Ugg, Parliament voted, the Green Party didn't vote for it, but the other 4 political parties thought that we should ask the Independent Judicial Commission, chaired by a senior Quebec Court of Appeal judge, Marie-Josée Ugg, who has all of the security clearances, all of the structure to look at all of the most secret documents the government has. I think it was a good suggestion, and all parliamentarians came together to ask a senior judge who's already looking at these exact questions to perhaps look at what the National Security Committee of Parliamentarians looked at, and she has a report coming out later this year. We think that's a responsible way to bring some context and some nonpartisan context to this issue.
Thank you, Caitlin. We'll go to
Vous voulez ça en français? Vous voulez ça en français?
Oui,
En français
merci.
aussi.
Merci. Oui, en français, la même question. Est-ce que tu veux que je te la donne de nouveau en anglais, la première?
Non.
OK.
Alors, laissez-moi prendre la deuxième question au début.
Oui.
Nous avons vu cette semaine différents parlementaires faire des commentaires sur le rapport caviardé, non caviardé, sur le rapport non caviardé qu'ils ont lu. Moi, je pense que c'est utile pour des chefs de parti de prendre avantage de l'offre du gouvernement, de regarder précisément la version du rapport qui est, par la loi, tenue secret. Alors, c'est dommage que M. Poilievre ne veut pas faire ça. Moi, je suis très content que M. Singh l'a fait et que Mme May l'a fait. Moi, je ne peux pas donner des commentaires précis, évidemment, quand ce qui a trait à des individus, le nombre d'individus, dans quelle formation politique. Moi, j'ai eu un avis assez clair du sous-commissaire de la GRC et du ministère de la Justice que ce sera imprudent pour quelqu'un comme moi de faire des commentaires sur des détails de renseignements dans un rapport hautement secret. Mais je pense que c'est aussi important de comprendre qu'il y a un contexte où il faut lire ce genre de renseignements-là. Ce n'est pas de la preuve. Souvent, c'est une source qui n'a pas été vérifiée. Des fois, la source, si c'est une source humaine, a peut-être fait des erreurs dans d'autres renseignements du passé. Alors, c'est pourquoi les services de renseignement prennent le temps nécessaire pour établir un contexte, d'essayer de vérifier ces renseignements. Alors, c'est pourquoi ils m'ont dit à plusieurs reprises qu'il faut être très prudent avant de discuter publiquement ce genre de renseignements. OK?
Alana?
That's me. I also have a question from Toronto.
Oh,
Can you
see, there's the question from Toronto now, see?
Can you respond to Singh saying he's not relieved after reading the unredacted version of the National Security Report on foreign interference?
I'm not going to comment on specific things that Mr. Singh did say or that Mr. Singh didn't say. I was glad that Mr. Singh accepted the government offer to read the report. I wish Mr. Poilievre would do the same thing. I think Mr. Singh now comes to the conversation with a context that Mr. Poilievre doesn't seem to want to have. So I'm glad that Mr. Singh has done that. I think the best way to reassure Canadians around this information is to do what the NDP voted for, the Bloc Québécois, the government, and the Conservatives, is to ask the judge who's leading an independent judicial inquiry to examine exactly this sort of circumstance. And we think that Judge Ugg, when she delivers her report, may be able to bring an independent view to this very issue, and we're going to obviously do whatever we need to collaborate with the inquiry.
All right, and back to today's announcement, when can we expect to see this start to get underway, and is it enough to address the issue that we're having here in Atlantic Canada?
Well, work is underway, actually, and we'll be announcing the specific project, in the very, very near future. And again, we certainly have to make sure that all levels of government are working together. We need the municipalities, we need the province of New Brunswick, and we need the federal government at the table. Again, when it comes to solving the housing crisis, it's not a silver bullet solution. We have to have all hands on deck, and that's why the federal government wants to be a willing partner at the table with putting additional funds to ensure that we can build more homes even faster.
Merci. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bonne journée.
Just take one last question from Neil from Gold.
Okay.
Can I get two?
Yeah. Okay, and then I got to go back to CBC, do it again. So you got to watch Rosemary Barton live on Sunday. So you're going to say, I saw him on Friday, and I'll say, good morning, Rosemary, but it's actually the afternoon, because I'm doing it today. But it'll be on Sunday morning, so when I say good morning, Rosie, you'll know that it was done in the afternoon. Okay?
So my questions aren't quite as far as Ontario, but from Fredericton. It's been nearly a year since...
You have any from Moncton? No.
No.
Okay.
It's been nearly a year since New Brunswick and Nova Scotia applied for funding for the Isthmus project. Is there any update on when that will be awarded?
No, I don't have an update on that. I know that the Infrastructure Department is looking at the project they submitted. The initial project that they discussed with us doubled in terms of its cost. So when we first talked about the project, it was maybe $225 million. The project they submitted was twice as much as that. So obviously the Infrastructure Department will look at that carefully. It's a very significant amount of money for a $1 billion national fund. So it would be unusual that one project would be that large in terms of funding. So they're doing the work, and I hope that Sean Fraser and I will have something positive to announce soon.
And my final question is, there's a lot of concern locally about the timeline of the said project, and that a failure of existing infrastructure could happen at any time. Are you satisfied with the current pace of the project?
I wish the provinces had upgraded this infrastructure years ago. The province of Nova Scotia and the province of New Brunswick own this infrastructure. New Brunswick has record surpluses. So if they decided not to invest in this particular infrastructure and submit a federal application and then try and sue us at the same time, they can explain why they're doing that. I've thought for a long time that this was a good project. I told the premiers that. They want to go and waste time and money in a fake and frivolous lawsuit. I think they should get on with the engineering work and the planning of the project. And I know from having spoken to other premiers that they would be very happy to receive 50% of a project. In some cases, other premiers have said to me, I don't know why they're trying to sue you for 100%. I'll take 33% and let's get going right away. So you can ask those two premiers to explain why they're dragging their feet.
Thank you very much.